What up, everyone? Old buddy Ben Cleaver with that #show.com. As always, today this video is brought to you by the fine folks over at Neft Vodka, reminding you to please drink responsibly, as well as everybody over at Torque.com. They're all awesome. Have I got a treat for you? In case my t-shirt isn't already an indicator, I had the opportunity to sit down and watch an advanced screener of the 4-hour Justice League Snyder Cut. Oh my gosh, you guys, listen. As a guy who really did not care for the Justice League, Snyder Cut is far superior. I loved it, I had a blast, and I recently had a chance to sit down with Weta Digital visual effects supervisor Anders Langlands and animation supervisor Simeon Duncombe about their work on the over an hour of digital effects footage on Zack Snyder's Justice League, now out on HBO Max. Take a look.
Yeah, we had best part of like 1,000 shots, which is... I forget how long that is in minutes, but it's a lot anyway.
It's over an hour,
over an hour. Over an hour of material. Our main contributions were the big sequences like the Themyscira attack, where Steppenwolf fights the Amazons and grabs the mother box at the start. The history lesson scene, where Diana's explaining the history of the mother boxes and the anti-life equation and Darkseid, where he fights all of the the old gods, which was a lot of fun to do. And then a big chunk of the third act, where everything that's set inside the cooling tower in Russia, where Steppenwolf's using his intergalactic lava phone to talk to Darkseid and
that's a good name for it.
Intergalactic lava phone. Yeah,
that's great.
I like that one. Talk to those guys, and then of course the big fight scene at the end, where Steppenwolf's fighting the whole Justice League, and then Darkseid appears through the portal right at the end of the movie. Yeah, we were responsible for building Steppenwolf, and then we shared him with other VFX facilities as well after he was finished. So we did Steppenwolf in those scenes that I mentioned already, and then there were some other facilities did him in other scenes where he appeared. But we were working from a concept that's been kicking around since 2016, 2015, when Zack first started working on Justice League, before obviously it changed hands halfway through production. And he was a huge amount of fun to do, because that armor is so distinctive and so, it's pretty hard to do. It's pretty complex, like all those individual moving pieces. But what's great about it is having something like that, the idea was that it's sort of symbiotic with him, right? And it reacts to what he's feeling or doing at the time. So we could add little flourishes that timed with his dialogue when he's talking. We did something in animation where we were driving the timing of the movement of that armor by like the sound wave of the dialogue that's being given to tie it into how the actor's performance is driving it. Yeah, and it was super fun to work with from a lighting perspective as well. Like, I was just actually talking with Zack about this earlier. It's like when you're exploring a concept for the development of a look of a character with a director, like you'll often sort of pick like, okay, here's the really sedate, calm version, and here's the really extreme, colourful version, and you'll end up somewhere in the middle. With Zack, it's like, no, I want the extreme, colourful one. So he kept on pushing it further and further in terms of like the coloured reflections of the light on the metal, so that all shifts and changes as he moves around, and it's like, at first you're almost like, oh my god, this is going to be like eye-searing, but actually, then once you start seeing him in shots, you realize how cool he looks, and it becomes a huge amount of fun to play around with, like how you light him to get the most out of that, and the little pings and highlights all over the surface. So it was a lot of fun, just creatively, just seeing him in shots and seeing how cool he looked, and trying to figure out new ways to make him shine.
Yeah, it's credit to the design. Like, it's inspiring all the lighters and all those guys on that end of the pipeline, because he's got a cool suit, but also on the animation side of things as well, with his character and his physique and his design, it influenced a lot of our performance decision as well. People were excited to see this new design. The motion capture performers as well were excited to sort of portray Steppenwolf in a new light because of the new design. So it inspired and motivated a lot of us for various different reasons. So the design just was a huge thing to bring back.
Yeah, and I think that's really the biggest thing, really. The design aside, the biggest thing with Steppenwolf in this film is just we get to know him a lot more. Like he was in the previous iteration, he was kind of like a barely motivated villain. He had so little time to understand why he wanted these boxes, why he kept calling them mother, and like what his ultimate plan was. And then, but now we get all these scenes where we see him talking with Desaad and Darkseid and understanding that, oh, shoot, he's in Darkseid's bad books and trying to pay off his debt because he's screwed up in the past, and he's sort of under the thumb a little bit. He's the guy who's put down just trying to please the boss by slaughtering all of these millions of people. So he almost becomes like a sympathetic character in a way towards the end of it, because he is suffering in his own way despite all of these atrocities he's committing. But just being able to understand the character more just by virtue of his role being expanded and the extra time in the movie to give him some breathing space and actually then be able to develop that through his performance and through motion was a lot of fun. That's really what we enjoy doing more than anything, is exploring characters like that. Not just making a monster that looks cool, but actually how does he act, like who is he, and building that performance through our animation. Well, first thing is when someone comes to you and says, "Oh, hey, yeah, we're just going to swap this guy out for a new design in a couple of shots." Like, first of all, that's a lie. It sounds a lot easier than it is, because about half of our shots were completely new to us, and of the other half that were sort of like redoing existing work, not that many actually were simply just swapping Steppenwolf out with a new version, or swapping Darkseid in where Steppenwolf was in a 2017 version. But it's just even in the shots where we were doing that, like just taking a shot with the old Steppenwolf and putting a new one in, like he's so different in terms of proportions and his character that it actually is actually a lot of work we have to go back and redo the animation because the same performance doesn't work because he's such a different guy, but also be like in the Themyscira scene where he's getting piled on by all of the Amazons jumping all over and like trying to hold him down to stop him getting the mother box. Well, now his arms are like 3 times thicker than the old guy, so where the Amazons are grabbing him, their hand positions don't make sense anymore, so we have to like rebuild all of that stuff to make those moments work. So it's a lot. Just saying, oh yeah, just update it makes it sound like a lot easier than what it actually is. But it's interesting from a creative point of view as well, because normally when you're starting on a project like this and you're going through those first processes of building up and figuring out what a character is and what things look like, you're working together with your whole team here. You're working together with the director and with the director's visual effects supervisor, who's DJ on this one. And you're between all of the people involved, you're coming together and figuring out what this thing is going to look like as a unit, as a team. And so by the time you actually get into doing the work, you've kind of figured out shorthand between yourselves, and you've figured out like a gut instinct for what things are going to look like, how things are going to behave. And you run on that for doing the rest of the production. So it's almost like second nature by the time you're going through. But coming into something that's already been done and matching a look, in some ways you'd think it would be easy because it's like, oh yeah, just make it look like that. That's what we want. Just make it look. But in other ways, it's actually harder because you don't have an instinctual understanding of what that look is. You haven't developed it yourself, so you're kind of constantly mentally checking yourself, saying, "Oh, does this match into what we did before?" Because you do have to intercut with some shots that were done in 2017 and with some choices that were made in 2017. Not one's better than the other. It's just they're different creative choices, and you have to constantly be thinking about that.
I mean, I worked on the previous film, so it was an interesting experience to have a second chance at something, because it's not often you get that opportunity, right? Like, the shots never finish, you just run out of time, so you just have to let it go and okay, so here's some shots coming back to this, we're like, all right, cool, we can jump back in there, maybe we can make this a little better. So there was that opportunity, which was exciting. And also, the fact that you knew Zack and DJ, his visual effects supervisor, were involved in the show with a lot of enthusiasm for it as well. There's a lot of positive enthusiasm for this one, which I think motivated a lot of us. So that opportunity was fun to be involved in. I think personally, because we get to do a lot of performance capture for all these characters, and it's down to basically 2 guys that we use here at Weta, and we use them for Marvel films and all sorts of stuff because they have a wealth of experience. So Isaac Hammond and Alan Henry would take those guys down to the mocap stage, and there would be a day where they get to play the Justice League, like everybody plus Steppenwolf and Darkseid, and now you're Desaad, and so that's a bit surreal, and it is for those guys as well. Like, it's just a real treat to put their virtual Batman suit on or their virtual Steppenwolf suit on and strut around for a day pretending to be these awesome comic book characters. And that, yeah, it doesn't quite dawn on you at the time just how big this stuff is that you're working on until now, and we're starting to talk about it, and the world is starting to get, to see it come to life and get really excited about it. But I think for me personally is, just seeing the enthusiasm on the stage, like live, is heaps of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess related to that, I think my favourite bit was putting Darkseid back in, and that whole beat with him fighting in the history lessons. I remember, I mentioned my wife worked on the first one. I remember she came home and told me, oh, they got rid of Darkseid now, and they swapped him out Steppenwolf in that scene. I was like, what? Oh, that sucks. And now we get to put him back and it really explore that moment and develop him as that character, and see how he fights and see him taking on all of the old heroes, all of the old gods, the Green Lantern and all the Amazons and everybody. And so it was a lot of fun to put that back together, and realize the original vision for that scene. And he was just a fun character to work with. Like, again, the performance of the guys playing Darkseid and Green Lantern and their fight work was so cool to work with. And there's some really great looking shots in there that I'm really proud of, and were just a lot of fun to do. Zack kind of finally got the opportunity to make the version of the movie that he wanted to make. Even if what transpired in 2017 didn't transpire, we never would have seen a 4-hour version of Justice League released in the theaters. Like, no studio's going to do that. So, like, him actually getting the chance to go back and make it as he wanted it is kind of awesome, and being able to tell that entire story, including all of the bigger world building stuff around Darkseid and the anti-life and all that kind of thing is really cool to be a part of, because there's just this infectious excitement about the whole project from
totally,
Zack and DJ
totally.
The whole way. It's like, yes, we're finally getting to make the movie that we always wanted to make, and that was really inspiring for all of us here. Being able to be a part of that and bring that to life.
I think creatively, we had some more breathing room, and maybe that comes from the confidence of working with Zack and DJ before as well, because there is work that we can be proud of that sort of we came up with internally, and there's some really good moments that we came up with internally that Zack and DJ really dug. So when you're in that position to be able to explore new ideas, and for Zack and DJ to, at least give them a moment to consider, those guys are really good like that. So to have some of those creative ideas make it through into the final cut, that's an awesome opportunity. But I like how you appreciate the final result of the visual effects in this version of the film, because as Anders mentioned, it's like there's a lot of sincerity in this version, and everyone's enthusiasm for it, and it's an artistic medium, and when artists are sincerely into the stuff that they're creating, it comes out on screen. I don't know how, but it kind of does, and so it's cool to hear from all you guys that have already watched the film and how excited you are for it, and you can see the love in the images, which is awesome.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And you guys, listen, from one geek to another, nerd to nerd, listen up. I did not like Justice League. I didn't like the first version of the DCEU Justice League. The 4-hour Zack Snyder cut, I loved pretty much every minute of it, and it's awesome. It looks so much better thanks to guys like Anders and Simon, and it's just much more fleshed out and just makes a lot more sense. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I'm Old Buddy Ben. This is ThatHashtagShow.com. The Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League is now on HBO Max. Be sure and check it out, and remember, I'm drinking out of this red cup because whenever Ben Cleaver shows up, it's always a party.